When the president gave his sort of ill-fated Oval Office address, you said at the time that if you were making such an address, one of the things that you would announce was that you had assigned the Army Corps of Engineers to literally get out there and start building additional housing capacity, additional hospital capacity in places where we expect to have the first crush. Was that hyperbolic, or do you really think that the U.S. should be physically building new facilities or commandeering existing facilities to try to save the hospitals?
I think we need outside-the-box ideas. China built this 1,000-bed hospital, as you talked about. I don't think we have the ability to do that, but we have other ways to be creative. It could be the Army Corps building or expanding facilities, setting up triage tents outside hospitals. It could be reactivating old hospitals. We have a lot of shuttered hospitals now in this country. There's one just down the street from me outside Washington, D.C. We need that sort of creative thinking. And what's so shocking and saddening is that we really have had 2 months to be thinking about this and planning for this, and now instead we're scrambling.
You, as I mentioned, helped oversee the Obama administration's response to the Ebola outbreak in 2014. You were the head of the USAID Office of U.S. Foreign Disaster Assistance at the time. There's been a lot of lamentation over the fact that the president just did away with so much of the pandemic preparedness that existed in the federal government, that was created in part in response to the Ebola epidemic, so we wouldn't be starting from zero when the next one came. Yeah. What can you tell us specifically about what the federal government did in dealing with Ebola, what the federal government did right that is missing from this administration's response? There's a lot that we did right. There are things that we did wrong, but I think what was fundamentally different was a check your math mentality. We were looking for the weak points in our plan, the things that could derail us and undermine us, and building backups to that so that we weren't vulnerable if something went wrong. And that, I think, is what's so problematic about the whole testing issue, is that it's a little bit like the military going to war and all their comms linked through one satellite. If that satellite goes down, you're toast. Is that the fault of the satellite, or is that the fault of you putting all your eggs in that basket? That's kind of what's happened here with the testing issue. Jeremy Konyndyk, Senior Policy Fellow at the Center for Global Development, now former Head of Foreign Disaster Assistance at USAID. I want to thank you for what you've been doing as a public intellectual and as a public expert on this subject in terms of putting out critical questions at this time. But thanks also for making time to be here tonight. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.